Hey guys, welcome back to True Crime with Shannon, where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. Well, I am back to discuss the horrific case of Leticia Stauch. This one I'm going to be covering the arrest affidavit. And there is 32 pages, so I'm not going to read it all. There will be portions of it that I'll just sift through because, man, 32 pages. That said, I do want to make sure that you guys know this is a trigger warning, especially on this arrest affidavit. It's very disturbing, as is this entire case. So please take care of yourselves first. And if you feel like you need to bail now, and can't watch this video or anytime, please take care of yourself first. So we're starting off with the photos of 11-year-old Leticia Stauch, because really that's what this is all about. We want to get justice for this 11-year-old child who was abused by his stepmother, or monster as we call her, Leticia Stauch, and brutally murdered, allegedly, by her. And I will probably start dropping the allegedly on this one because she is a monster, guys. There's just no doubt in my mind, truly. So let me pull up the arrest affidavit and I will start going through that with you all. So this is the arrest affidavit. Again, there's 32 pages, so we're definitely not going to be reading all 32 pages. So I will sift through it, and I will include this link. This one's actually from the Denver Post. It's multiple places that have posted it, but this one here is from the Denver Post. And that way, if you want to read it on your own, you can definitely do that as well. The following affidavit is submitted to the court to document the probable cause in support of a request for the issuance of an arrest warrant for Leticia Stauch. Date of birth, 8/4 of 1983. Looks like her social security number was redacted. This offense is fully documented in El Paso County Sheriff's Office Offense Report 20-1382, detailing the offenses listed below in paragraph 2. With the victims identified as Leticia Stauch, 9/29/2008, race is white, gender is male. Number 1, your officiant is Jessica Bethel, a duly sworn and state certified police officer and detective with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, EPSO, who has been employed as such since 2010. Your officiant is participated in other law enforcement investigations, including homicide investigations, child abuse, weapons violations, assaults, and other violations of Colorado revised statutes. I'm familiar with social media networks and electronic methods of communication. I have attended a 1-week crime scene analysis training course through the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. I have also relied on other investigators from outside agencies with more investigative training and experience, including but not limited to Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, Special Agent Andrew Cohen, and FBI Special Agent David Donati. Your officiant submits the following facts to demonstrate probable cause to believe that on or about January 27, 2020, in the county of El Paso, in the state of Colorado, the defendant, Leticia Stauch, also known as AKA Leticia Hardin, did commit the following offenses, herein referred to as the violations. Murder in the first degree, child under 12, position of trust, and they have the statute there, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with a deceased human body, tampering with physical evidence. 3. This affidavit is being submitted to support the issuance for an arrest warrant for the violations. 4. The facts in this affidavit come from my personal observations, my training and experience, and information obtained from other agents, law enforcement officials, and witnesses. The contents of this affidavit were derived by reading reports, viewing evidence as provided to me by other EPSO investigators and special agents of the FBI. 5. Much of this affidavit was prepared by FBI Special Agent Cohen, but I have reviewed the below facts carefully and have no reason to doubt any investigator's accuracy or truthfulness in their reports. This affidavit is intended to show merely that there is sufficient probable cause for the requested warrant and does not set forth all of my knowledge about this matter. 6. In summary, and this will be set forth below, probable cause exists to issue an arrest warrant for Leticia Stauch for the violations. The vast array of investigative techniques in this investigation has produced a voluminous amount of evidence in support of the requested warrant. Number 7. Investigators have executed physical search warrants and collected evidence from vehicles associated with Leticia, cellular devices utilized by Leticia, and from the residence of Leticia. Electronic search warrants have been executed to entities including, but not limited to, Facebook, Apple Inc., Google Inc., AT&T Wireless, Verizon Wireless, ADT Security System, Tile, Life 360, Yahoo, and Ring doorbell service. Some of the physical evidence has been examined by a laboratory for DNA profiles. Number 8. Investigators also recovered a significant amount of exterior video footage from individual, privately owned neighborhood security cameras, businesses around Colorado Springs, Colorado, and cameras in other surrounding areas. Some cameras provided recorded footage of the exterior of the Stauch residence. 9. Historical cellular records and historical site details were analyzed and that is redacted. 10. Some, but not all, of the available photos and other evidence collected from the aforementioned search warrants and other investigative steps are included below and are not meant to represent all the evidence available. Furthermore, there has been no intentional exclusion of photos that could be deemed exculpatory in nature. 11. The information contained in this affidavit can be found in EPSO case report number 20-1382. Facts in support of probable cause. The Stauch family and general information. 12. The Stauch family is a blended family and will all be discussed at various points below. This representation purposely has little details in order to give an overview of the family structure. A. Father, Eugene Al Stauch. B. Stepmother, Leticia Stauch. C. Daughter, Harley Hunt, minor, 17 years of age, by blood to Leticia, not Al. D. Son, Gannon Stauch, minor, 11 years of age, by blood to Al, not Leticia. And E. Daughter, Lana Stauch, minor, 8 years of age, by blood to Al, not Leticia. 13. The following vehicles will be discussed at various points below. A. Red Nissan Frontier, Mr. Stauch's main vehicle. B. Black Volkswagen Tiguan, Leticia's main vehicle. C. White Volkswagen Jetta, Harley's main vehicle. D. Silver Nissan Altima, a rental car obtained by Leticia's aunt, Brenda Aquilard, and utilized by Leticia from January 30th through February 1st, 2020, after her Tiguan was seized by EPSO on January 29th, 2020. E. White Kia Rio, a rental car obtained and utilized by Leticia on January 28th through 29th, 2020. Background of those mentioned in this affidavit. 14. Leticia Stauch, a.k.a. Leticia Harden, date of birth 8/4 of 1983, is the last person known to investigators to see 11-year-old Gannon Stauch, date of birth 9/29/2008, alive. Leticia is Gannon's stepmother and was Gannon's only known adult supervision in the days preceding and on the day of his murder. At the time of Gannon's murder, Leticia was employed by School District 20 as an assistant teacher, although I have also learned that she is no longer employed there. A. I was able to locate prior criminal history for Leticia and learned that in North Carolina, Robeson County Court Case 2001 CRS 01193, Leticia was convicted after a trial for communicating threats, a misdemeanor, but I was not able to locate her sentencing information. Leticia was also convicted of unauthorized use of a motor vehicle in Robson County, court case 2001 CR 014645, and was sentenced to 45 days confinement and 18 months of probation. B. Although not criminal in nature, I was able to locate a document memorializing the suspension of Leticia's North Carolina teaching certificate 261777 on or about May 11th, 2016. As part of that document, it is reported that Leticia has filed unsubstantiated claims of harassment and retaliation, and the North Carolina State Board found that Mrs. Stauch breached her contract by engaging in unprofessional conduct, willfully neglecting her duty, and failing to comply with the provisions of her contract. C. Leticia's criminal history is only included by way of background for the court, and because Leticia has been convicted of previous crimes, it is not meant to indicate guilt of the violations or to be considered as the sole basis of probable cause for the requested warrant. 15. Eugene Albert Stauch, a.k.a. Al Stauch, date of birth 9/20/1982, is Gannon's biological father and is married to Leticia Stauch. Mr. Stauch was deployed with the National Guard during the dates of January 25th, 2020 to January 28th, 2020. Mr. Stauch spent the night in Denver on January 25th, 2020, and departed via commercial airline on January 26, 2020, returning via commercial airline on January 28, 2020. Investigators were able to corroborate this information, and Mr. Stauch has cooperated fully in the below investigation. Summary of a multi-agent missing person investigation in Colorado. 16. Of note, and in some portions of this affidavit, depending on the date of events being discussed, the investigation may be referred to as a missing person investigation or a murder investigation. For the purpose of this affidavit, they are indeed one and the same. 17. The subsequent information primarily surrounds the period of Monday, January 27th, 2020 to Wednesday, January 29th, 2020. Investigators have taken independent steps to corroborate information received throughout the investigation, and in most circumstances have video footage, cellular communication and location records, security system records, or other records to support the below claims. This summary section is only meant to give the court an overview of the investigation, and the facts supporting this summary will be articulated below. 18. On January 27, 2020, at or about 18:55 hours, Leticia Stauch reported Gannon missing after calling 911. During that call, she was instructed to call the El Paso County non-emergent line. In summary, Leticia stated Gannon was supposed to be home approximately 1 hour ago and that she was unable to locate him at his friend's house. Her story dramatically changed multiple times over the following days. 19. As will be discussed below, investigators do not believe Leticia went to any neighboring houses to attempt to locate Gannon, and was one of many lies told by Leticia during the investigation. Leticia was unable to provide the actual location of the home she went to, the names of Gannon's friends he was supposed to be playing with, or the names of the parents of Gannon's friends. 20. Deputies responded to Leticia's residence at 6627 Mandan Drive, Colorado Springs, Colorado, and were unable to locate Gannon. Deputies conducted a limited search of the residence and took a report from Leticia. Some of the interactions between the responding deputies and Leticia were captured on body-worn camera. A missing person investigation was initiated and in the coming days developed into a murder investigation. 21. A tip line was established and investigators received hundreds of tips and leads from the public by virtue of emails and telephone calls. As a part of this tip line, 2 ransom notes were received by email demanding money in the form of Bitcoin in exchange for Gannon's return. Investigators took steps to validate these ransom notes, including resolving and geolocating the internet protocol IP addresses from the email headers and requesting subscriber information from the internet service providers that hosted those IP addresses. One of those ransom notes was sent from a foreign-based email account that is accessible by multiple individuals. Investigators weren't unable to trace the user of the IP addresses and believe the ransom notes to be fraudulent and strictly designed as a scheme to receive money. 22. Leticia initially claimed that she saw Gannon on January 27, 2020, when he left their residence to play with his friends somewhere around 15 hours. Based on the facts outlined below in Leticia's statement to EPSO dispatcher, Leticia is the last person that ever saw Gannon alive. Leticia stated she attempted to find him at a neighbor's house and sent her daughter Haley Hunt, date of birth 5/1/2002, to look for Gannon at a park. 23. Leticia lied to investigators on multiple occasions, has unexplained abnormal behavior such as obtaining a rental car, disconnecting her cell phone from the cellular network for an extended period of time, the false reporting of an alleged R, abnormal patterns of travel, a continuously evolving story with material changes in facts and circumstances, and has since left the state of Colorado. These actions, when combined with other facts in this affidavit, support the totality of probable cause for the requested warrant and will be discussed below. The murder of Gannon Stauch. 24. The following section will outline what investigators have learned about Leticia's activity on January 27, 2020, and outline the period when Gannon was likely murdered. Some of the information contained in this section will be repeated in other portions of this affidavit or discussed later in more detail. Additionally, there are more evidence sources that are mentioned here, but not fully defined in other sections. Investigators believe that Gannon was murdered by Leticia Stauch in the afternoon hours after approximately 14 hours of January 27, 2020 at his residence, and more specifically in his bedroom. Physical evidence recovered from the residence and inside Gannon's bedroom supports that a violent event occurred in his bedroom, which caused bloodshed, including blood spatter on the walls and enough blood loss to stain his mattress, soak through the carpet pad, and stain the concrete below his bed. Some photographs of this evidence are included below. 26. Based on evidence recovered from the residence, Gannon's remains were eventually brought through the house into the garage and likely loaded into the back of Leticia's Volkswagen Tiguan. After cleaning the murder scene, Leticia utilized the Tiguan to transport and dump Gannon's remains on the evening of January 28, 2020. Leticia likely disposed of his remains off Highway 105 South Perry Park Road in Douglas County, Colorado. Indeed, the Metro Crime Laboratory determined that blood discovered in Gannon's bedroom, the Stauch garage, and blood on a piece of particle board located off Highway 105 South Perry Park Road all matched his DNA profile. 27. On Monday, January 27, 2020, Gannon Stauch stayed home from school. Based on text messages from Leticia to Mr. Stauch, Gannon was up most of Sunday evening with a stomach problem. Leticia did tell Gannon's school, Grand Mountain Elementary, that Gannon would be absent on Monday. Investigators were able to verify that Gannon was marked as an excused absence that day. Leticia also told Al that, "I'm going to just give them an excuse at work and stay with him." Indeed, Leticia did come up with an excuse and told her employer via text message at or about 0:44:37 hours that her stepdad was killed after being hit by a car and she would not be able to come to work that day. 28. Other electronic evidence, such as time and date stamped photographs and videos, were recovered from Leticia's cellular device that indicate Gannon was likely still alive during the morning of January 27th, 2020. 29. As displayed in paragraph 54 below, images were taken on Leticia's cell phone at or about 08:13 and 08:17 hours on the morning of January 27th, 2020, showing Gannon sleeping in his bed. Of particular note, his Nintendo Switch, a small video game console, is visible in the photo lying next to him on the bed. Mr. Stauch has said that this gaming system was of high importance to Gannon. To date, investigators have been unable to locate the Nintendo Switch. It should also be noted that Leticia used her phone the following day, January 28, 2020, at or about 12:57 hours to conduct a Google search. Can Nintendo find my Switch? This is also detailed in the list of some of her search history in paragraph 141 and reasonably occurred because she was contemplating how she would dispose of the Switch. 30. I conducted a Google search for the term, can Nintendo find my Switch, and learned that the Switch does not come with any sort of tracking ability. As such, Leticia likely felt it was safe to dispose of the Switch, and used the missing Switch to help deceive law enforcement into searching for Gannon as a possible runaway. 31. Ultimately, investigators located video surveillance from a neighbor's surveillance camera that showed what investigators believed to be Leticia and an individual that appeared to match Gannon's physical description depart their residence in the Nissan Frontier at or about 10:16 hours on January 27, 2020. 32. The video camera is several homes away and does not provide images clear enough to make positive identifications of those captured in the recording. The video returned at or about 14:19 hours, and Leticia exited the vehicle. After viewing the video, I cannot be sure if another person exited the vehicle or not, but I submit Gannon likely did return home with Leticia that afternoon. These times, corroborated by data collected from an ADT security system installed in the Stauch residence, are discussed below in more detail. 33. Based on data returned from the Stauch ADT security system, the motion detectors in the living room or basement did not register any activity from approximately 10-12 hours until Leticia and Gannon enter the home at approximately 14:22 hours. Investigators confirmed Lana to be at school and confirmed that Harley was at work. As such, investigators believe there was likely nobody else in the residence except Leticia and Gannon. 34. Leticia's historical cell site information detailed information about her iPhone status and a text message sent to Harley from Gannon's cell phone support that Leticia left her cell phone at the Stauch residence the morning of January 27, 2020. The fact Leticia left her phone at home is suspicious on its own, based on her history of extensive use of the phone. 35. I have reviewed forensic search records from Leticia's phone and found she's an active user of social media, including but not limited to Facebook and Instagram. A more detailed review of Leticia's iPhone screen time log between January 25, 2020 at 0800 hours and January 29, 2020 at 1100 hours revealed that Leticia spent approximately 38,607 seconds on Facebook and Facebook Messenger alone, which equates to approximately 10.7 hours of cumulative time over those few days. 36. Leticia's telephone was locked at or about 0956 hours on January 27, 2020, and unlocked at 1445 hours on the same day. The timing of the unlocking of the device is significant as compared to her departure and arrival to from the residence and should be noted by the court. Particularly, Leticia did not open her phone for approximately 30 minutes after she arrived back to the residence. 37. On January 27, 2020, there was a message sent from Gannon's phone to Harley's phone that reads, "Tisha left phone at home. If you need her, text me." This message was sent at or about 10:37 hours. 38. Investigators were able to confirm, based on video surveillance footage and purchase receipts, that Leticia traveled to Petco, located at 5020 North Nevada Avenue, Colorado Springs, Colorado. This Petco is approximately 22 miles from the residence and is an approximate 30-minute drive, based on Google Map directions. The receipt shows that Leticia completed her purchase at or about 11:22 hours. Gannon is not visible on any of the surveillance video obtained at Petco. 39. Leticia's whereabouts are unknown between approximately 11:22 hours and 13:22 hours. At 13:22 hours, Leticia was again captured on video surveillance, making a second purchase at the same Petco on North Nevada Avenue. Mr. Stauch sent a text message to Gannon's cell phone at or about 12:06 hours that read, "Hey buddy." This message was unanswered until 13:21 hours. The response was, "Can I play Zelda at least?" Mr. Stauch replied, "Not today." 40. A significant event occurred on Gannon's phone at or about 13:43 hours, which is prior to arriving back at the Stauch residence. There was an internet search for, "Can my parent find my cell phone if it is off?" I submit that this internet search was likely conducted by Leticia on Gannon's phone and not Gannon himself, based upon the content of the search, the way the search terms are phrased, and the presence of a quotes in between phone and if. This is very similar to the way Leticia conducted searches on her phone. However, I've located other internet searches with a quote and Gannon search history, which I also reasonably believe were conducted by Leticia. A more detailed explanation of Leticia's search history is included below in paragraph 141. 41. Furthermore, the search term was parent, singular. I submit it is reasonable that Mr. Stauch only, not Leticia, would be interested in the location of Gannon's phone, and that Leticia was possibly deliberating on how or if she would dispose of Gannon's phone after she murdered him. 42. I conducted the Google search of "Can my parent find my cell phone if it's off?" and learned that the first answer returned in the search engine reads, "The answer to your question depends on what method is being used to track your location." Gannon's phone was found at the residence. I submit that Leticia did not get rid of Gannon's phone for fear it might be traceable. 43. The Nissan Frontier returned to the Stauch residence at or about 14:20 hours. A search warrant authorized by this court was executed on the Nissan Frontier and found no indications of blood inside the vehicle. 44. Leticia had been without her cell phone for hours, yet her screen was not unlocked until approximately 14:45 hours, which was 25 minutes after arriving back at the residence. During that 25-minute period, there is motion activity both upstairs and downstairs on the ADT records. 45. Lana returned home from school around 15:15 hours. During a recorded forensic interview with investigators, Lana stated when she returned home, Leticia told her Gannon was asleep in her bed and she could not see him. Leticia told Lana to go outside and play. I submit that Lana was sent outside because Gannon was likely dead, and Leticia was cleaning up blood from inside the house. 46. At or about 15:55 hours, Mr. Stauch sent another message to Gannon's phone. "Hey buddy." This message was not read until 1940 hours. It is likely that Gannon was already murdered by Leticia at the time Mr. Stauch sent the message. 47. Based on exterior video footage, Harley arrived at the residence in her white VW Jetta at or about 16:42 hours and picked up Lana. 48. At or about 16:52 hours on January 27, 2020, Leticia sent a text message to Harley requesting carpet cleaner, trash bags, and baking soda. These items were likely to clean up the murder scene. Harley purchased these items, and investigators located a receipt documenting the purchase. Harley Hunt has refused to speak with investigators. 49. Investigators do not believe Harley was present when Gannon was killed. Harley was at work on January 27, 2020 from 08:30 to 16:15 hours, and investigators were able to verify this with her employer. 50. To be clear, investigators have not located any evidence that any person other than Lana and Leticia had access to Gannon between approximately 10:00 hours and 17:34 hours on January 27, 2020. Statements and images captured on body camera on January 27, 2020. 51. Your officiant has reviewed body-worn camera footage and reports obtained from a deputy that responded to 6627 Mandan Drive, the residence of the Stauch family. After responding, Leticia provided verbal consent for deputies to search the house for Gannon. By the way of timeline, EPSO Patrol responded at or about 2209 hours, approximately 3 hours after Leticia initially called 911. 52. From the BWC, I learned the Volkswagen Tiguan, known to be leased and utilized by Leticia, was backed into the garage when EPSO was at the residence. The position of the Tiguan in the garage is significant, specifically because of the confirmed presence of Gannon's blood in the garage below the area where the rear hatch of the Tiguan would be, and the positive reaction of Blue Star Regant, indicating likely presence of blood on the Tiguan's right bumper. 53. Responding deputies also searched in Gannon's basement bedroom, and I have viewed images of Gannon's bedroom taken from the BWC. Below I have included a BWC image of Gannon's bedroom on the left. On the right, an image recovered from Leticia's cell phone after executing a search warrant that was applied for and granted by this court. These images both represent the condition of Gannon's bedroom on January 27, 2020 at or about 0813 hours and just after 2200 hours. 54. This photo comparison is significant for many reasons, and the corner of the bedroom where Gannon's head is visible is the key area discussed in several sections below. See the right image below taken at 0813 hours. Now these are going to be hard to see because they are black and white. A. The placement of Gannon's bed is in the immediate location where his blood, based on DNA profile results, were found on the wall, the carpet, and on concrete below the carpet. These details are discussed below, and a large volume of blood appears to have been in that area. B. For the purposes of comparison between the images, it appears that although the sheet may or may not be the same, the blankets are different and the pillowcase, if not the whole pillow, is different. I submit that a logical explanation for the missing bedding is that they likely were saturated in blood after Gannon's murder, and they were removed by Leticia to clean up the murder scene. Furthermore, investigators were unable to locate the bedding in the Stauch residence during any of the approximately 5 searches of the residence. So the left is the snapshot from 2200 hours on 1/27/2020, and this one here is the one on 1/27/2020 at 8:13 hours. So basically they're saying there was a significant change in the bedding and all that. 55. Another photo was recovered from Leticia's cell phone that shows his bed was not pushed directly against the wall by the head of the bed. This photo articulates the ability for blood to get onto the walls and floor in the corner of the bedroom. Mr. Stauch stated the positioning of the bed is unusual, and the bed is usually pushed against the wall. And there's another photo. Again, these are hard to see because they are more like a photocopied image from the images. All right, so now we're moving on to the need to rent a 2019 Kia Rio. 56. Mr. Stauch spent the night in Denver on January 25th, 2020, and flew out of Denver International Airport on January 26, 2020. Investigators were able to corroborate he traveled to Dallas, Texas, and ultimately to Oklahoma based on his flight records. On the morning of January 28, 2020, Leticia rented a 2019 Kia Rio from Avis Rent-A-Car in Colorado Springs. Leticia picked up Mr. Stauch at the Colorado Springs Airport at or about 0850 hours on January 28, 2020. Shortly after Leticia rented the vehicle, Leticia and Mr. Stauch drove back to the residence from the airport in the rented Kia. 57. The timing of the rental of the Kia is suspicious, and combined with forensic evidence later obtained from the Tiguan and discussed below, tends to place additional importance on why Leticia felt compelled to rent a vehicle that morning. Investigators located no evidence that the Tiguan was not mechanically functioning or noted any reason why it could not have been physically driven. In fact, the Tiguan remained parked in the Colorado Springs Airport short-term parking lot until approximately 1900 hours on January 28th, 2020. 58. Leticia provided statements to her husband, Albert Stauch, that she was concerned about putting mileage on her Tiguan lease, which justified the vehicle rental. It is noted, however, that during the time of the Kia rental, Leticia only put about 71 miles on the vehicle. During the time period Leticia had the Kia, she would not provide the location of the Tiguan, and Mr. Stauch never saw the Tiguan. For example, she told Mr. Stauch that the Tiguan was near French Elementary School. 59. Between investigators and Mr. Stauch, a limited search for the Tiguan was conducted and produced negative results. Investigators later learned she left the vehicle in the short-term parking lot of the Colorado Springs Airport, but removed the vehicle at or about January 28, 2020 at 1900 hours. The Kia Rio was returned on the morning of January 29, 2020. 60. I submit Leticia could not pick up her husband in the Volkswagen Tiguan because it likely would have revealed evidence of Gannon's murder, including blood or the actual remains of Gannon himself. The Kia Rio. 61. Investigators applied for and were granted by this court a search warrant for the 2019 Kia Rio rented by Leticia Stauch. This vehicle was located at the rental car company at the Colorado Springs Airport and has not been rented to another customer in between the time Leticia dropped the vehicle off and when the investigators seized it. 62. Investigators did take a swab from a stain that was confirmed to be blood in the trunk of the Kia Rio and submitted it to the Metro Crime Laboratory for analysis. A DNA profile was developed and determined it was a mixture of two contributors, one of which was male, and the major male profile did not match Gannon Stauch's DNA. 63. I submit that because the Kia Rio is a rental car, it has likely been utilized by a large number of people, and the blood in the trunk may or may not be related to the investigation, and investigators have not been able to determine the likely age of that blood and have not matched it to any known DNA profiles associated with this case. 64. Investigators noted that the Kia Rio had a significant amount of mud underneath the vehicle, but this did not provide any successful investigative leads in looking for Gannon's remains. Investigators collected the air filter of the vehicle and attempted to identify particles that might be useful to identify where the vehicle might have been. 65. Investigators were unable to recover any GPS data or location history for the Kia Rio. Leticia's Volkswagen Tiguan is significant. 66. The Volkswagen Tiguan is important to investigators because they believe the Tiguan was used to transport the remains of Gannon from the Stauch residence to a location where Gannon's body was dumped. The definitive locations of the Tiguan are unknown to investigators during the time period of approximately 1902 hours on January 28, 2020 to approximately 1200 hours on January 29th, 2020. Investigators believe Leticia dumped Gannon's remains on the evening of January 28, 2020, and utilized the Tiguan to do so. The Tiguan was seized from Leticia on January 29, 2020. 67. Leticia had a scheduled interview with investigators on January 29, 2020 at the EPSO located in downtown Colorado Springs, Colorado. When she arrived at or about 1200 hours, she was driving the Volkswagen Tiguan. Investigators noted that the vehicle was wet and appeared to have been recently cleaned. I submit that Leticia had to clean the vehicle because there was likely visible blood on the rear end based on the below luminol reactions. Indeed, video footage was recovered that shows a partial view of a car wash located at East Platte Avenue, Boyfay Avenue in Colorado Springs, Colorado. This video captured a portion of a black SUV consistent with the VW Tiguan at or about 11:30 hours on January 29, 2020 at the car wash. The time and location are consistent with raw data obtained from the Tiguan's computer system, described in more detail below, beginning in paragraph 152. 68. Investigators applied for and were granted a search warrant for the Tiguan, which was seized from Leticia at her interview and towed to the EPSO evidence facility. On or about February 1st, 2020, the FBI Evidence Response Team, ERT, conducted a search of the Volkswagen Tiguan. In summary, the forensic portion of the search revealed possible traces of blood on the rear of the vehicle, a rear passenger seat, front passenger seat, and an area near the glove box based on luminol forensic latent blood stain reagent tests. Swabs from the trunk area were sent to the Metro Crime Laboratory for further analysis. These results revealed that a DNA profile could not be developed and that the swab from the trunk was negative for the presumptive presence of blood. 69. To be clear, luminol is a chemical used to detect trace amounts of blood at crime scenes, and although I do not have a chemical or biology background, I have learned that luminol reacts with iron and hemoglobin found in blood. When applied, luminol emits a blue glow when a reaction occurs. I am also aware that there are things other than blood that could cause a reaction, such as other chemicals, and I do not submit that just because luminol reacted with a substance that the substance must be blood, and only that there is a strong probability of suspected blood. The positive reaction to the luminol is meant to be combined with other facts in this affidavit in support of the probable cause. 70. Several areas of the Tiguan reacted to luminol as mentioned in paragraph 68. Specifically, the search team found evidence of suspected blood on the rear bumper and step gate of the rear bumper. The location of the blood is significant because this vehicle was backed into the garage at Leticia's residence the day of Gannon's murder. The search of the residence is discussed below, but it is noted that evidence of Gannon's blood, based on DNA profile, was also located on the floor of the garage, consistent with where the rear end of the Tiguan would have been. 71. A photo is included below to demonstrate the reaction of the luminol reagent to the likely presence of blood. Particularly, the position of the reaction leads investigators to believe that blood was likely in contact with the rear bumper of the Tiguan, and most reasonably while loading Gannon's remains in the trunk. Swabs from the exterior bumper have also been submitted to Metro Crime Laboratory, but those results have not yet been returned. However, the Metro Crime Laboratory did return a result from a trunk of the Tiguan that was negative for the presumptive presence of blood. Again, there's another photo here, but it's really hard to see that this is the rear bumper of the Tiguan. 72. Within the Tiguan, a receipt from a dollar store was located. Timestamp January 27, 2020 at 17:14 hours. And documented the purchase of trash bags, baking soda, vinegar, and the items listed in paragraph 74. 73. Investigators believe that Harley purchased these items at the direction of Leticia, based upon the following text message sent from Leticia's cell phone to Harley's cell phone on January 27, 2020 at or about 16:52 hours. Leticia, carpet powder, 2 things, baking soda, trash bags. 74. Also included in this dollar store purchase was baby oil, baby lotion, cotton rounds, and bubble gum. Investigators do not believe these other items were involved in the cleaning of the murder scene and likely have no investigative value at this point. 75. I know from personal experience that baking soda and vinegar are common household items that can be used to clean blood. Additionally, I conducted open source internet searches that reveal vinegar is one of the most common items used to clean blood stains, and that when baking soda is applied to blood stains prior to vinegar, it has an efficient effect in removing blood stains. 76. While the purchase of items such as vinegar and baking soda are common and in no sense illegal on their own, the timing of the purchase of these items and Gannon's suspected murder are beyond coincidental. 77. Also located was a parking receipt for the Colorado Springs Airport that documented the Tiguan was brought into the airport short-term parking lot at or about 08:30 hours and left on the lot at or about 19:02 hours, both on January 28th, 2020. 78. On January 29th, 2020, Leticia returned the rented Kia at approximately 0900 hours, and she was picked up by someone driving the white Jetta. Investigators were unable to confirm that Harley was driving the Jetta, but it is her primary vehicle, and her historical cell site location from her cellular telephone records support her phone was in that area. As such, I believe Harley was likely driving the Jetta. 79. Investigators were able to download telematics and stored electronic data from the Tiguan. A more in-depth exploitation of the Tiguan's electronic systems, more specifically its historical locations, were developed and will be discussed below in more detail, beginning in paragraph 152. Investigators were able to determine the locations of the Tiguan on the evening of January 28, 2020, including its location in the area of Highway 105 South Perry Park Road in Douglas County, Colorado. 80. Investigators also served a search warrant to AT&T related to an International Mobile Subscriber Identity, IMSI, that designated to the Tiguan's CarNet feature. AT&T responded to the search warrant and provided Network Event Location System (NELOS) data that would give an estimated location of the Tiguan. The data revealed that during the evening of January 28, 2020, between 20:30 and 22:20 hours, the Tiguan was generally in the greater northwest portion of Colorado Springs and likely also in an area north of the Air Force Academy in southern Douglas County. I submit that during this time period, investigators believe that Leticia disposed of Gannon's remains. 81. Of note, during the time period of approximately 20:30 and 22:20 hours on January 28, 2020, Harley's cell phone is connected to a tower that would service the Stauch residence, over approximately 30 miles from Leticia's suspected location. There is activity on Harley's telephone during that time, and investigators do not believe that Harley was with Leticia when she disposed of the body. However, at approximately 22:26 hours, Harley's cell phone leaves the Stauch residence and goes to the area of Powers and Carefree, where investigations suspect she picked Leticia up. The January 29, 2020 interview and report of an alleged R of Leticia Stauch. 82. As mentioned above, Leticia voluntarily came to EPSO for an interview with investigators, but only after she was evasive and avoided speaking with investigators one-on-one. Her interview was audio and video recorded, and the below information includes her own statements as well as investigation geared toward corroborating the statements. In general, her statements are reasonably categorized as untruthful, incomplete, and misleading. 83. Leticia was supposed to arrive at 10 a.m. on January 29, 2020, but did not arrive until noon. Although she spoke with investigators on the phone several times, she did not want investigators coming to her home and was difficult at best to track down. Investigators provided food and water to Leticia during the interview. 84. Of interest, Leticia brought several pieces of notebook paper with her that contained notes that she had written down. During the interview, she referred to these pieces of paper and asked investigators if she could just read her notes. Investigators were not able to seize these documents. I have conducted hundreds of interviews on suspects, victims, and witnesses. It is extremely rare for an individual to bring notes to an interview. Yeah, that's really strange. 85. Leticia drastically departed from her initial statements given to EPSO deputies regarding their report of Gannon's disappearance. In summary, Leticia said she had been held at gunpoint and arred by an Hispanic male she knew as Eduardo, and that Gannon was abducted by that male after he finished arring her. The interviewing detectives believed her statements were false based on prior experience investigating SA cases. 86. Leticia said she arrived home around 14:30 hours on January 27, 2020, and she disarmed her security system and then went into the basement. She said that Eduardo was in the basement, attacked her, and pointed a gun at her. She said that after Eduardo held her at gunpoint, he allowed her to go upstairs to greet her stepdaughter, Lana Stauch, date of birth 1/22/2012, who had just arrived home from school. Leticia said she sent her outside to ride her bike, then returned to the basement where Eduardo vaginally penetrated her against her will between 15:30 and 16:30 hours. During this period, she believed that she had hit her head and may have blacked out. Investigators noted no injuries on Leticia's head during their contact with her. 87. Leticia also said during the attack, Gannon jumped on Eduardo's back and that Eduardo was able to throw Gannon off of his back and across the room. After Eduardo had finished, he had the gun held to Gannon and demanded a suitcase. Leticia provided him with a brown suitcase and a cardboard box. Eduardo attempted to SA her again, but she hit her head and blacked out again. 88. Leticia stated she tried to fight Eduardo off, but was unsuccessful. I know from training and experience that if an individual holds another person at gunpoint, he or she would likely not allow the person to have an opportunity for escape, as Leticia described being allowed to greet her stepdaughter upstairs before returning to the basement. Most crucially, if Leticia's story was accurate, any reasonable person would have immediately called 911 and reported the home invasion and kidnapping of their child. Leticia called law enforcement hours later and did not report the alleged R until approximately 2 days later. Yeah, her story is quite out there, that's for sure. 89. Of even more significance, Leticia said she cleaned up the area where this alleged attack had happened. She straightened up signs of disturbances in Gannon's room and cleaned up the utility room. Investigators recovered cleaning supplies such as carpet brushes, which contained suspected carpet fibers. I submit that Leticia did in fact clean something up, but it was the murder scene of Gannon, not an SA. 90. Investigators took steps to corroborate Leticia's statements before dismissing them as false and misleading. For example, investigators reviewed video footage from a neighborhood security camera that captured the exterior of the Stauch residence from the day of Gannon's murder and did not observe an Hispanic male entering the house. Investigators did observe Lana arriving home on the school bus at or about 15:11 hours, observed her enter the residence, and observed her riding her bike at or about 15:30 hours. 91. Furthermore, Leticia was offered the opportunity to have an SA nurse examiner, SANE, conduct a forensic examination at a local hospital. Ultimately, Leticia did not want to have the exam completed. When given the opportunity to provide investigators with evidence that would possibly identify Eduardo, Leticia refused to cooperate. 92. Leticia stated that she met Eduardo on January 26, 2020, the day prior to Gannon's murder. She generally described a Hispanic male with brown hair and brown eyes, but could not provide any specific identifying information. In summary, she told investigators that Gannon had knocked over a candle on Sunday, causing the carpet to burn. After that incident, she drove around the neighborhood where residential construction was taking place. She met Eduardo, who was working on a house, and asked if he would repair the carpet in her home. Eduardo agreed, and Leticia provided him the garage door code, and they agreed he would repair the carpet while she was shopping the next day. 93. To the extent Leticia spoke about Lana, investigators were able to corroborate those statements, but never observed Eduardo or anyone else arrive or leave the residence during that time period based on exterior neighborhood video footage of the front of the Stauch residence. Specifically, exterior video footage revealed that Lana was riding her bike outside between approximately 15:30 and 15:42 hours. Furthermore, the front door of the residence opened and closed at 15:28 hours based on data from ADT security system discussed more below. 94. I know from training and experience that when individuals concoct lies, most reasonably to conceal the truth, they oftentimes leave portions of truth within those lies. I submit that the statements Leticia made reference Lana and the time period Lana was at the residence are likely true, based on video evidence. Her other statements, however, are blatant lies designed to mislead investigators. 95. Investigators also reviewed Leticia's phone records during the time of the alleged R of 15:30 to 16:30 hours on January 27, 2020. During this time period, Leticia had phone activity to include an outgoing phone call and numerous iMessages, text messages using an iPhone, to Mr. Stauch and Harley, namely to discuss purchasing a new set of headphones for Albert. Those text messages occurred at the following times: 1541, 1542, 1543, 1544, 1545, 1611, 1619, and 1620. 96. Investigators were also granted a search warrant by this court that was served to ADT Home Security, which requested data stored on the ADT servers to the Stauch residence. The Stauch residence was equipped with basement and living room motion detectors and contact detectors on the front and rear door. ADT was in possession of logs that documented the time, date, and type of event that generated a log. For example, when either motion detector was activated or the front or rear door opened or closed, there's a record of that event. 97. Leticia claimed that she was art in the basement between 14:30 and 15:30 hours. During that time, the back door of the residence, located on the main level, was opened and closed 10 times. If indeed Leticia was being art in the basement, it would be impossible for her to open the upstairs back door of the residence at the same time. I submit that Leticia's claims of being art in the basement are false based on her cell phone activity and the stored ADT data. 98. The logs from ADT indicate significant activity in the basement of the residence where evidence suggests Gannon was murdered. For example, between January 23, 2020 and January 26, 2020 and the hours of 1500 to 1700, the average number of basement motion events was 3.5. On January 27, 2020, the average number of basement motion events was 10.3. A possible scenario for this increase in activity is that Leticia was going upstairs and downstairs in order to get cleaning supplies and cleaning the murder scene. 99. Toward the end of the interview, Leticia said she wanted to leave. Investigators seized her telephone and detained her while they applied for a search warrant to obtain DNA collection. Leticia began stuffing tissues in her pants and said she was having chest pain and shortness of breath. Investigators immediately requested medical assistance, and paramedics from the Colorado Springs Fire Department arrived. Leticia had appropriate responses to the paramedic questions. I'm sure she did. 100. I am aware that Leticia has made statements regarding Gannon's disappearance to individuals other than law enforcement, including but not limited to her friend, her husband, and the media. Indeed, some of those conversations have been captured and memorialized in recorded phone conversations and email messages. Leticia's stories have continued to evolve, and material facts continue to change, including but not limited to the identity of her attacker, the location of Gannon's abduction, and the details of the alleged R. 101. During her statements, Leticia did deny killing Gannon and provided explanations as to why there was blood in her Tiguan, blood in Gannon's room, and why she was in the area of Palmer Lake, Colorado. Leticia is transported to a local hospital in Colorado Springs on January 29, 2020. 102. Leticia was transported to the hospital via ambulance from the EPSO for further medical attention. Leticia was accompanied by detectives during the ride to the hospital. Unlike questions at the EPSO by paramedics during the ambulance ride, Leticia was unresponsive to questions by medical personnel and seemed to have a miraculous recovery when they arrived at the hospital. The ambulance ride was audio recorded. 103. Leticia received medical care at the hospital, and the details of that care is not included in this affidavit for medical privacy reasons. Leticia did not have any life-threatening issues and signed herself out prior to all of her exams being completed. 104. Leticia continued evasive behavior at the hospital, but particularly after investigators told her they were going to detain her pending the issuance of a search warrant to collect her DNA. Ultimately, the search warrant for the collection of non-testimonial evidence was signed and executed. A second warrant for the compelled SANE exam was initially authorized by this court, but then it was quashed by the court. To be clear, Leticia did not allow a SAN exam to be completed. So she did not allow an exam to be completed for what she said that she was ARD. 105. Leticia was not in custody after the warrant was executed at the hospital and left the hospital without telling investigators. She also made a phone call from the waiting room at the hospital. There was a physical surveillance being conducted by law enforcement in the area, and investigators learned Leticia was picked up by an unknown person at the hospital and was reunited with her daughter several miles from the hospital. 106. Although her behavior was not illegal, I submit that as a pressure continued to increase from investigators, Leticia became more and more desperate to leave the hospital, likely because she feared being caught in her lies. Furthermore, Leticia did not want to pursue collecting evidence that might assist law enforcement in identifying and finding her supposed artist. Yeah. Searches of Leticia's residence and discovery of confirmed blood in Gannon's bedroom. 107. Investigators searched the Stauch residence several times over several weeks after applying for and being granted search warrants from this court. The purpose of those searches was to collect evidence, including biological evidence, in support of the captioned investigation. The forensic searches were conducted by Colorado Springs Metro Crime Lab. To avoid confusion, the January 28, 2020 initial search was authorized by Mr. Stauch, and he provided consent to search the residence. Not all of the evidence recovered is included below. However, the forensic testing results of several items, including a pair of size 8.5 Nike shoes, are discussed in paragraph 126. 108. Gannon's remaining family members were living in the residence during the period of these searches, and investigators did not initially seal the residence off. Crime scene analysts from the Colorado Springs Metro Crime Lab responded to the residence and found traces of blood throughout the residence based on Blue Star forensic latent blood stain reagent tests. There was visible blood in Gannon's room, in the garage, and other portions of the house. 109. Blue Star forensic stain has similar limitations to luminol, which has been described and discussed above. 110. By way of background, the residence located at 6627 Mandan Drive, Colorado Springs, Colorado, is a ranch-style single-family home, approximately 2,500 square feet with a 2-car attached garage. There are 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms in the residence. 2 of those bedrooms are in the basement, including Gannon's. Next to Gannon's room, there is an unfinished utility room, and on the other side of the basement, another bedroom and a bathroom. There is a staircase with a small landing that allows access from the main level to the basement, and the garage is accessible from inside the residence. The Blue Star reagent was applied to Gannon's bedroom, the hallway leading to the utility room from his bedroom, the utility room itself, the staircase and landing leading upstairs from the utility room, the pathway to the garage from the stairs, in the garage area itself. In all these areas, investigators found positive results for the likely presence of blood. Yeah, here's another photo we're not going to be able to see. It just looks like a big black block. 112. Specifically in Gannon's bedroom, in a corner of the room, investigators located an area where suspected blood had seeped through the carpet, through the pad, and stained the concrete. Furthermore, there was also blood stain and projected blood splatter located on the walls in this area. Indeed, over 50 droplets of suspected blood were found on the walls near Gannon's bed. Crime scene investigators also suspected someone attempted to clean the walls based on the way the Blue Star reagent reacted on the wall. 113. Gannon's mattress was also seized and contains a red stain consistent with blood in the same area as the stain on the carpet and the blood cast off on the walls. The stains on the mattress were swabbed but were not tested with Blue Star reagent. The laboratory results have not yet been returned, but because other blood in the area was determined to be Gannon's blood, investigators suspect the blood on the mattress is also Gannon's blood. These we can kind of see. Looks like some stains there. So sad. 114. I've included several crime scene photographs that include the wall next to Gannon's bed and the carpet and carpet pad that was removed by investigators to expose the concrete below. Based on the orientation of Gannon's bed, the vast majority of the blood would be aligned with the position of his head and torso and consistent with the stain of the mattress displayed above. 115. I submit that the blood located in Gannon's room appears to have been cleaned up. Based on residual blood residue on the baseboards, an electrical outlet cover, and the blood that soaked through the carpet. DNA laboratory testing has confirmed it was indeed Gannon's blood, and Gannon's body has not yet been found, reasonably indicating this was likely the scene of Gannon's murder. 116. Investigators have requested but have not yet received a report from Tom Griffin, who is an International Association for Identification, IAI, Certified Senior Crime Scene Analysis, CSCSA, a Bloodstain Pattern Analysis, CBPA, and a Crime Scene Reconstructionist, CCSR. Mr. Griffin examined the blood spatter on Gannon's walls. Mr. Griffin preliminarily reported that the stains on the walls are consistent with one or more blood spatter producing events, which could include gunshot, blunt force, or a stabbing. Mr. Griffin did not believe the bloodstains were aspirated blood, primarily due to the lack of air bubbles in the stains. Furthermore, the shape of the stains were affected by the surface texture of the drywall itself. The final report from Mr. Griffin has not yet been received and is pending a peer review. 117. Trace evidence swabs of suspected blood were obtained from the electrical socket next to Gannon's bed. Those swabs revealed the blood was indeed Gannon's blood, based on DNA profile testing. The electrical socket also has evidence of streak marks, which are reasonably suspected to be from Leticia's attempted cleaning. When investigators removed the outlet cover, a visible red stain was present, outlining its edges. The presence of the stain tends to support there was enough blood around the outlet cover to seep around its edges, leaving a visible outline. Oh, yeah, that's one of the also more disturbing details. And there's some photos. Again, we can see the outlets, we just can't see the blood. And there's a photo of the room. Looks like that's where they took the carpet from there. (118) I have also included a photograph of the suspected blood stain in the concrete located in the corner of the bedroom where Gannon's bed was positioned. This stain is also visible in the photo depicting the suspected blood spatter on the walls. The carpet above this stain in the concrete was clean, and investigators suspect Leticia cleaned the area based on carpet fibers on scrub brushes, the acquisition of carpet cleaning supplies, vinegar, and baking soda. 6627 Mandan Drive was a new construction build, and the Stauch family was the only family to reside in this residence. 119 On January 29, 2020, investigators recovered a piece of carpet from the utility room with possible blood stains. The recovery of this carpet tends to further support the positive alerts from the Blue Star Gambit in the utility room. The Metro Crime Lab reported the substance tested presumably positive for the presence of blood, but was unable to develop a DNA profile. 120 On January 29, 2020, investigators found in the dishwasher multiple carpet brushes with suspected carpet fibers on them, and the dishwasher appeared to have been run. Investigators believe these brushes were used to clean up the murder scene. To be clear, no formal testing was completed to confirm the fibers on the brushes were carpet. 121 Investigators also located an empty gallon-sized container of vinegar within the residence. Mr. Stauch believed there was approximately half of the container left before he left for Oklahoma on January 25, 2020. As mentioned above, additional vinegar was purchased on January 27, 2020. 122 EPSO deputies that responded to the Stauch home on January 27, 2020, did not notice the bloodstains in Gannon's bedroom, and it should be noted the initial report was that Gannon had left the home and had not returned. As additional information was developed, more forensic searches of Gannon's room were conducted, which revealed the aforementioned evidence. There were small traces of blood found in the depressions of the drywall and paint texture that Leticia failed to remove when she cleaned the murder scene. All right, I'm going to stop there for this particular video because this is already going to be pretty long. So we've gotten through 122 paragraphs of this affidavit. We're on page 18, so we're more than halfway through it. I'm going to try to finish it either tomorrow or Friday, definitely by the week's end. But tell you what, this is highly, highly upsetting and disturbing. This is definitely gives a lot more detailed information about what exactly happened, even though we still don't know the exact story. But again, I feel really horrible for Gannon, what he went through. 11 years old, and the way he was treated, and from what we gather, this was just the horrific end to everything that Leticia put him through. All right, guys, that's all for today. Again, I'll finish reading this affidavit probably tomorrow night and post it as well. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, next week starts jury selection on Monday the 20th, and I'll be continuing to follow that as well. With that said and done, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and most of all, stay safe.